I want to take this time to invite you and your family to join me for the next half hour for Minister in Warfare for the Lord. This is a $1 bill that I have in my hand. And I'm sure that as you look at it, it can conjure up different kinds of feelings among different people. To some people, they may say that money talks and everything else walks. And others may say that there's no romance if there's no finance. And for others, they may look upon the dollar as a dear friend. Now, there was a man that I once knew, a man who lived during the Great Depression of the 1930s. And he once said to me, "David, when you lose your last dollar, you have lost your last friend." And recently there was a group of 33 employees at a Delaware printing company, and they were the winners of a $214.7 million Powerball jackpot, which turned out to be the 10th largest lottery jackpot ever. Now, it turns out that these workers decided to choose the cash option of almost $117 million rather than the annual payment stretching over 29 years. And as the result of their decision, each of the workers will receive about $2.2 million after taxes. And if it's true that a dollar represents a friend of yours, then for each of the 33 employees, they have suddenly attained an abundance of friends. And for many of them, they may be proponents of the philosophy of, if you have enough money, you can get anything that you want out of life. And they would be quick to concur with what King Solomon said in the 10th chapter of Ecclesiastes and the 19th verse. "A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things." But then, there are people who have just the opposite view. They believe that much of the civil and social unrest that we see in the world today is the direct result of the power and misuse of money. And they support their argument by quoting the writings of the Apostle Paul. For in 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter and the 10th verse, it tells us, "For the love of money is the first step toward all kinds of sin. Some people have even turned away from God because of their love for it, and as a result have pierced themselves with many sorrows." Now, most of us have heard the old adage that money cannot buy happiness, but that doesn't stop many of us from working long and hard for even more money. And even economists are saying that money isn't everything. However, on an individual level, there's no denying that money does do some good. A recent Associated Press poll showed that people who make more than $75,000 a year are far more likely than those who make $25,000 or less to say that they are very satisfied with their lives. That's 56% of the higher income group compared with 24% of the lower income group. In other words, more money will make you happier, but only as long as those around you don't also earn more. Also, you get used to earning more money, so after a while, it doesn't cheer you up as it did at first. You always find someone who has more money than you have, or a bigger house than you, and it just becomes one big leap after another. It's a matter of thinking you need to prove something to the world, but as you get older and hopefully wiser, it's irrelevant. And King Solomon in his writings gives his assessment of the situation. For in the 1st chapter of Ecclesiastes and the 2nd through the 4th verse, as well as the 3rd chapter of Ecclesiastes and the 20th through the 22nd verse, we are told, "In my opinion, nothing is worthwhile everything is futile. For what does a man get for all of his hard work? All go to one place, the dust from which they came and to which they must return. For who can prove that the spirit of man goes upward and the spirit of animals go downward into the dust? So I saw that there is nothing better for men than they should be happy in their work, for that is what they are here for, and no one can bring them back to life to enjoy what will be in the future, so let them enjoy it now. Now both the Apostle Paul as well as King Solomon were filled with the Holy Ghost when they wrote these scriptures, and yet their statements seem so inconsistent, and they seem to contradict each other, and it seems like they have created a paradox. Perhaps if we look closely at the scriptures, maybe we can get some insight as to their true meaning. Now, King Solomon in his message is trying to tell us that if you are prudent with your money and invest it well, there will come a time when you will have an excess amount of money, which in turn will help you to provide the very best, not only for yourself, but for your family. You'll have that extra money to meet any emergency that might arise. And you'll be able to take your family out to dinner once or twice a week. Yes, you will be able to enjoy the finer things of life, all because you have enough money. But then if we look at the Apostle Paul's writings, we can also see the danger that is inherent when money becomes the chief focus of one's life. Perhaps Paul is trying to warn us that in our pursuit of money, when it becomes all-consuming, there lies the danger. Paul doesn't say that money or possessing money is evil, but he says the love of money is the root of all evil. When you desire it above all else, that is when sin becomes a part of the equation. When you allow money to become your God, the thing that you worship and desire above all else, then you are in danger of receiving the full wrath of God. For God has given us ample warning in his word. For in the 20th chapter of Exodus, and the 3rd and 5th verse, it tells us, "You must worship no other God than me. You must never bow to an image or worship it in any way. For I, the Lord your God, am very possessive. I will not share your affection with any other god. And when I punish people for their sins, the punishment continues until the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of those who hate me. And no matter how much fame and money you may possess, it will not shield you from the wrath and the punishment from God. And there are 7 things which God will not tolerate on a continuous basis. And they are found in the 6th chapter of Proverbs, in the 16th through the 19th verse. For there are 6 things the Lord hates. No 7. Haughtiness, lying, murder, plotting evil, eagerness to do wrong, a false witness, and sowing discord among brothers. Having too much pride and being too judgmental of others is a recipe for disaster. And Jesus talks about this danger in the 7th chapter of St. Matthew and the 1st through the 5th verse. Don't criticize, and then you won't be criticized, for others will treat you as you treat them. And why worry about a speck in the eye of a brother when you have a board in your own? Should you say, "Friend, let me help you get that speck out of your eye," when you can't see because you have a board in your own? Hypocrite! First get rid of the board, then you can see to help your brother. When you are a public figure, it's like living in a glass house, and therefore it's important that you live the life that you preach and say that you believe in.